Hey, Rob Hahn is the founder and managing partner of 7DS Associates, a strategy consulting firm specializing in creative solutions rooted in strategic analysis and data. With a varied background from finance, corporate law, technology, product development, media and entertainment, startups, fashion, and even as a professional card player, Rob brings a unique perspective to business problems. Rob started in real estate at a specialized commercial real estate investment firm investing in airplane hangars. He moved on to Reality, where he headed the interactive marketing for Coldwell Banker Commercial. Rob writes the well-known blog Notorious, R.O.B, where he opines on topics in real estate, technology, marketing, and strategy through far too long posts. He is a prolific speaker, better than me, at industry events such as Inman Connect, T3 Summit, local, state, and National Association events, as well as weddings and bar mitzvahs. Somehow named in the Inman 100 most influential people list, despite his best efforts not to be noticed, Rob understands that with great power comes great responsibility. Conversely, he notes that with very little power comes very little responsibility. He is a graduate of Yale University with a degree in philosophy. Unfortunately, the Wall Street philosophy banks were not hiring when he graduated, so he decided to add a law degree from NYU along with student loans the size of a good mortgage. He is a refugee from New Jersey, residing currently in Las Vegas, Nevada with his wife and the amazing Sunny Lake Hahn. Welcome, Rob. Hi, I'm Rebecca Hidalgo-Rains, and you're listening to Grateful Heart. I started this show to help educate my clients on the real estate market, and it's evolved into so much more. I've found that I love talking to people, and I love learning new things. While our expertise is still on the health of the housing market, we want to focus on the health and the well-being of our listeners as well. More specifically, where we reside in our hearts, in our minds, and in our homes. The biggest purchase in our life just isn't a house. It's where we raise our children, start a new business, pray for our loved ones, and follow our dreams. It's even where we listen to our favorite podcast. When we are successful at home, everything else just falls into place, and we are so grateful for that. Home is where the Grateful Heart is. Thank you for joining us today. Hey guys, today your guest and my guest is Rob Hahn. He joins us from Vegas, and he's also known as Notorious Rob. I am delighted to bring him on. By the way, I'm your show host, Rebecca Hidalgo-Rains of Grateful Heart TV, and here is our guest, Rob, Notorious Rob. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. How are you, Becca?
Good.
Wonderful to be. I love your setup. Oh my God! Like, I do a little podcasting, but man, you're knocking out the park.
Well,
That's
thank
awesome.
you. I appreciate it. I have a lot of fun doing this podcast. I actually said to somebody, we just aired his show yesterday, and he complimented me and said, he was really surprised. We kind of switched directions last minute. He's like, "You're really good at interviewing people." I'm like, dude, I love to talk. What can I say? I will talk to anybody, anytime. I love finding out people's stories. It's so much fun for me. Your whole background is really cool. Being in the real estate market for as long as you've been, I know we've got a ton to talk about today. I was reading your bio, and okay, number one, just so all the ladies know, this gentleman is taken. His wife, Sunny's super sweet and super cute. So she is all his and he's all hers. So I'm afraid he's not single, ladies. And he is the managing partner of SDS, which,
7DS.
7DS. Thank you. And,
You're welcome.
When I met you the first time, I never talked to you about that. So I didn't even know what 7DS was. Can you share that with us? Because I want to make sure that I understand all of your business opportunities, because you are kind of all over the place, dude. Not going to lie.
I am. So 7DS stands for 7 Deadly Sins.
Oh, okay.
I know.
And you've committed all of them all the time. Is that why you named your company that?
We all do it. So the motivation behind it, when I first started the company, I thought I was going to do a lot of marketing consulting, because that's sort of my background. And in marketing, I thought 7 Deadly Sins is one of these things that every one of them is this fundamental human drive. Yeah. Where if you do too much of it, then it's really bad, which is why it's called a sin. So, for example, like gluttony.
That always comes to mind, right?
Die.
Yeah, but you have to eat. You got to eat.
So the issue is, it's such a powerful urge that that the ancients are like, hey, we're gonna warn you against eating too much. Like, this is such a powerful urge. Lust, same thing. Like, you have to have sex in order to procreate and have the next generation.
True.
such a powerful urge. So for me, 7DS was always about understanding these very fundamental, powerful urges that we could use in marketing. So,
I like it. No, but that's cool
Yeah.
because, honestly, with marketing, isn't it all about just kind of hitting home to somebody?
That's
And
right.
and the
That's right.
easiest way to hit somebody's home is probably with one of those 7 deadly sins, since they are necessary in each of our lives, right?
Right. And I've always thought that like the perfect business has all 7, right? And then really deep. So for example, like I think I used to say like the NFL was like a perfect business because it has lust, you got the cheerleaders.
Yeah.
It has wrath because you have large men hitting each other.
Right. Totally.
It's got envy,
Yeah.
it's got it all.
Lust, yeah,
So
definitely. Gluttony, you name it, it's got it all. I mean,
you got it.
you
Yeah.
got it. And so for your marketing company, that's really interesting. Do you do a lot of marketing for people other
Not
than
anymore.
yourself? Okay, so that was
No,
something
not
that
anymore.
you've done in the past. You're not doing
Correct.
it right now.
Correct.
And that's what I really want to talk about. After a break, we're definitely going to get into what you're doing today. But I would
Yes.
love to learn a little bit more about Rob, notorious Rob,
Sure.
and your
Thank you.
background, because it is really fascinating to me. I was reading your intake sheet, and one of the first things you listed that we get to talk about is lawsuits. Like, I was not
Yes.
expecting that, and transparency. So obviously the more
Yeah.
transparent you are, usually is the less lawsuits you're probably going to be suffering from.
That's exactly right.
And I was curious, is that why you listed that, just to chat about lawsuits, or what's your experience with lawsuits, dude?
Okay, so first of all, I confess I am one of those. I like to say I was a lawyer larva,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I avoided having to become a lawyer. But I am in fact a retired member of the New York Bar, but I never actually practiced law.
That is
'Cause
so
I did
funny.
I did my summer internship and came to this realization. I don't think this life is for me.
Okay, so time out, dude. That's something else we have in common.
Sure.
I'm actually a certified paralegal. Kind of did the same thing. I'm like, you know what? Law school, 2 years. Let me try the paralegal gig, see if I even like it enough to, suck it up for 2 years. And I quickly learned myself in those 6 months that I was a lot happier, and my bank account looked a lot better than most of those instructors that were teaching me with law degrees.
I'll tell you, it was 3 things. So I'm a summer intern at one of the biggest law firms in the country called Waukesha in New York City. The average partner at this firm makes $1 million a year. So this is like the pinnacle of the profession, right?
Yeah, this is where you want to be when you get out of school, right?
Correct. Right. So I'm a summer intern there, and I noticed a couple things. Number one, every single partner, right, that I was like following around during that summer, none of them wanted to be a lawyer. Not one. Everyone's like, I'm just waiting until my kid graduates, and I'm gonna go open an Airbnb, a bed and breakfast. I'm gonna go pursue my passion. I was like, okay, when you're at the pinnacle of the profession, and every single one of those people are like, I don't want to be doing this. Like,
They weren't happy people, were they?
No. It's 2. These are again at the pinnacle of the profession. Every single partner I interface with was on their 2nd or 3rd marriage.
Ouch.
And I
Well,
said again, something about this lifestyle probably lends itself to that. And then the third thing that got me was you have to break your life basically into 6-minute increments because they bill you by the hour. So they want to be able to bill you a 1/10 of an hour, right? So literally I had a chess clock on my desk
for 6
where I'd
minutes.
be working on some memo. Phone call comes, I have to hit the chess clock, take the phone call, write down. And I said, I can't live like this. It's not for me.
Where you're basically tracking every minute of your day so you can bill people for every minute that you spend thinking about them. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, I knew I liked you when I first met you, Rob, thanks to George for introducing us. And I think, our personalities are very much in alignment because you have your podcast, which is actually, I think I have, let me see. I should have. Oh, yeah, there it is. Notorious Rob is the...
I haven't...
What?
I know, but I haven't done that in a real long time. The one that I do more regularly is industry relations with Greg Robertson.
Oh, you should have sent me that link. Make sure I get it after today's show. And so when we post it, we'll put the link on there too, because, I'm just going off of George kept calling you notorious. Every time he mentioned your name, there was nothing but... There's no Rob. It was always notorious Rob. So I thought that was...
There's a story there too, right? Which is, when I first launched my blog, I wanted a name, and I'm a big fan of Biggie Smalls, rest in peace. And I'm from New York, right? I mean, I kind of have to be. So I
You have
said
to be a
notorious
fan.
R.O.B.
I dig it. I dig it. Well, I already told my producer that he better be playing that song from Notorious throughout the entire episode. Anytime you say anything cool, he's supposed to cue the music. So we'll see when we watch this episode later how many times you deserved the Notorious R.O.B song to be played.
Thank you. So I thought the lawsuit thing, because this has been the big thing that I've been talking a lot to, like realtor associations, brokerages. I'm going up to Canada in a couple of weeks to speak, at their big conference. I'll probably have mentioned this as well. As you know, Rebecca, there's a couple of lawsuits, a bunch of them really, but two in particular that are happening that's going to completely change sort of the landscape of how real estate is done. And I mean, I don't think the industry is fully aware of what that is. And I think consumers for certain have no freaking idea what's coming, except that when it arrives, it's going to be...
I'm getting chills right now because I know exactly what you're talking about and where we're leading to. So one thing I'm going to mention that people who maybe don't aren't in real estate, but they're homeowners, home buyers, home sellers. I held an open house this past weekend, and I had one of the folks who came through. They're like, how much are you guys paying co-broke agents? And it was interesting to me because I'd never had anybody be so bold, but I think it's because it's becoming more of a thing. Now our listings now note how much commissions are being offered to the co-broke agent. So it's actually public knowledge. And I knew exactly where you're going. So for the rest of the people listening, I'm sure they don't know what we're talking about. They may not.
No idea.
So why don't you go ahead and share about the DOGA and all of that fun stuff when it comes to real estate with respect to what people pay us realtors that sell their houses?
Sure. So there are two major class action lawsuits that are happening right now. One is out of Missouri called Burnett versus NAR, and the other one is out of Northern District of Illinois called Merle versus NAR. Okay. And Merle's the bigger case, right? That's claiming basically 20 markets, and these are the largest MLS in the country. And I think Armless might be in that mix as well. So you guys are going to be implicated, along with four of the largest real estate companies. Well, because you're not being sued directly, but Armless is implicated, right? And four of the largest real estate companies, in the industry. So Realogy, which is now Anywhere, Keller Williams, Home Service America, and
Home Services covers us. And just sidebar, my old CEO actually got pulled into the DOJ, and I remember he told me that was the scariest day that he's ever experienced in his entire life, having to appear before that panel. Yeah, it's intense. It's no joke. Yeah, it's intense. So anyway, so the basic lawsuit premise is that commissions in the United States, which were at the time like 6%. I think today it's closer to 5%. But again, the idea is that NAR and these brokerages conspired to keep commissions real high through cooperation compensation, which is the way that, we've been doing business in our industry for 50 years, 60 years. So once a buyer agent came around, because it used to not be buyer agent. So let me explain for those listening that they may not be aware of this. If you go hire a realtor to sell your home, typically you pay that agent a commission, and they usually split it with whoever brings the buyer. If they're lucky enough to find the buyer on their own, maybe they'll negotiate. I commonly do with my clients that if I find a buyer myself and I don't have to pay another agent, I'll give them a break, right? But that's just negotiations between me and my sellers. And I'm not saying every agent does that either, because not all agents will. And so a lot of times, new first-time home buyers don't realize that having an agent represent them actually doesn't cost them anything, because currently the way it's structured is the sellers, in theory, the reason why the sellers are the ones paying the commissions is because the sellers are the ones with the money, in theory, when the sale takes place, right? That's right. So I just want to interject that just to make sure that anyone listening understands that's the current structure that we deal with. And unless you've bought and sold a house in the last couple years, you may not be aware of that unless you carry a license. So please proceed, Rob, with your story. I apologize.
So I'm going to take issue with one thing you said, but that later.
You can take issue all you want. I'm cool with that.
I know, because I think it's something you and I agree on, right? But it's something that consumers aren't aware of. But anyway, so this lawsuit's happening. Both of them are now classified as class action, which means that obviously these lawyers, have it's insane amount of money at stake.
Billions that they're
and by the way,
threatening.
Here's the important part, I think, that, again, when this first popped in March of 2019, I wrote about it instantly because I said, look, NAR, MLSs, Realtor Associate Brokers get sued all the time. All the time.
Right.
And they've gotten sued on this theory that, these commissions are kept high by a anti-competitive collusion between realtors
Collusion,
and
that's such
brokers.
a terrible word. I hate that word.
Right?
It's terrible.
But that's happened for decades, and it never went anywhere, right? I thought what was different is the lawyers involved in this case are some of the scariest, biggest, best class action antitrust attorneys in the world.
Now, is it true that it's Redfin who actually started it? That's the thing that I had heard, that it was because Redfin was complaining about commissions being standardized, that it was Redfin who started the whole thing.
Not at all. At least there's absolutely no news, no facts.
That you've heard that before. Okay.
No, correct. Cohen Milstein is the firm out of New York, and they're amazing. Hagens Berman is out of Seattle. These guys have taken on like Visa, MasterCard. They've taken on big tobacco.
They're the scary guys with big fangs that are ready to
but
sink in.
It's not that. It's just, again, I went to law school. I know a bunch of plaintiffs' lawyers. Like to be hired by one of those firms, you literally have to be like Delta Force. You're the elite of the elite. You're really good at your job.
Right.
And these firms have enormous bankrolls, so they could just keep.
They can keep going for as long as they want.
Exactly, because if they win, they're going to take 40% of the award, right? The damages. So what do the damages look like in this case? In Merle, I computed, because we don't exactly know. I think Merle is right now a $165 billion case. $165 billion, and the lawyers will take 40%.
Okay,
which means they're not giving up.
No, they're not going to give up. And then
they're not going away.
Who's paying the lion's share of that? Because I know they're suing NAR, right? So if NAR is going to have to pay that out, I'm just thinking, forward thinking, do they have 165 billion in their bank accounts?
Of course.
I'm being a little facetious.
And those 4 companies. And it doesn't matter. Those 5 companies cannot afford $165 billion. It's just
not going to happen.
It's instant bankruptcy. I mean, it's not going to happen. But my point is, it's such an enormous amount of money. There's no settlement. There's no going away.
Right? Until this gets settled by our Department of Justice. And they
by the courts. Correct.
And they come out with a ruling on it.
Correct. And the Department of Justice is a factor because the DOJ and the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, have been going after realtors for about 50 years.
Yeah. Probably since they came up with a buyer broker.
No, it was even before that. It was back when the first Supreme Court case that I found was in 1950.
Wow.
Against not even NAR, because back then it was called the National Association of Real Estate Boards. Right? Saying what you guys are doing with designated agency, that's anti-competitive. You can't do that.
Well, and
1950.
And what I don't understand about this, okay, so I'm going to give a real life example. Just this morning, right before I drove over, I'm negotiating a BINSR. What a BINSR is, you know what it is. It's basically I've got clients under contract, and we just went through inspections, and I messaged the other agent and said, hey, the HVAC system is going to be a deal breaker. Home inspector said yesterday, there's no fixing it. It needs to be replaced. It might be working today, but I'm surprised it is, and it ain't going to work for long, right? And the agent actually threw in my face that he was paying me a 3% co-broke. Okay, so he's like, basically do your job and like stop calling this deal breakers. And I'm like, sitting there going, hey, wait a minute. I'm like one of the good guys. I offer 3% on all my listings. I that's cool that you did too, but I don't know that I should be treating my client in this home and situation any different. So I think that kind of plays into what you're alluding to, or what the argument that they have talking about is the commissions and how powerful they are with our motivations and our behaviors.
Sure. And that's going to be at the center of this whole steering notion. So we'll see what happens at trial. The point is, and the point I make all the time, so again, I've been reading every legal paper that comes out of both of these cases. And all I can say at this point, Rebecca, is that the judge, in my opinion, the judges have made up their minds.
Well, obviously, because I know where you're going with your business model next, and I know you believe that.
Well, before you even I'm just saying the judges have made up their minds, right?
It scares me.
The only reason why we don't have a decision is because this is a jury trial.
Wow.
But let's think about it from a jury trial standpoint. I mean, I think a lot of your listeners are just average consumers.
They are,
right?
and they don't know anything about commissions. They probably think they get paid too much as it is, right? Most of them do. So there you go.
And I'm just think like a jury of 6 people who have time on their hands. You get them on a stand. You get them in the jury box and say, "So listen, hey, did you ever sell a house in the last 10 years?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, I did. You got ripped off by these greedy realtors and these brokers who are. I mean,
we can both paint the picture of what the flip side looks like, because you and I both know if I get paid 3%, how much of that do I really retain? Probably about 30 to 40% after everybody else takes their cut out of me.
I feel like I feel like none of it's going to matter in a jury trial. All you have to do is just, I could see how that narrative goes. Whereas the counter narrative on the defense has to do with this like long historical record of how cooperation compensation came to be and from the, you know what I mean? It's just, and then here's all the different pieces, and it's really not that bad, and blah blah blah.
Really not that bad, blah blah blah.
I just don't see the jury like taking the defense's side at trial.
I thought that on this case, the whole issue was that it was hidden, the commissions, and that's why, like, for example, now Armless now notes and makes it public record how much compensation is being offered to that agent that is taking you shopping for houses.
No, the fundamental problem is that they think it's just too much.
Yeah.
That the decision makers, the policy, the academics, the media, legislators, FTC, for them, the problem is in the U.S., we pay between 5 and 6% to sell a house.
Right.
In Europe, in Australia, in other Western developed countries, it's closer to 2%.
Ah, interesting.
So they just want the price to come down to about 2%. So this is the way they're going to try and go about it.
Okay.
So
and this could be this could easily be in the courts for years and years and years, For
years and years.
And that's the thing is, and until something gets ruled, we may not change how we're behaving right now. Although I know there's a lot of disruptive things coming to market, which we're going to talk about as soon as we come back. Yeah, we're going to talk about it as soon as we come back from break. Oh, wait. What do you want to interject before we go to break?
Well, let's go to break, and then I'll bring this point up.
Okay.
Go ahead. Let's go to break.
Let's go to break. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for a mortgage, you need a personalized plan, not a click button get mortgage option. My team and I have saved families thousands by proactively planning their home purchase or a refinance. Buying a home is a huge decision, and it deserves a strategic approach. My team and I provide a comprehensive mortgage plan, including a complete credit analysis outlining the steps needed to improve your credit score and help you qualify for the best rates and terms in the market. Visit us at tkteam.us today. We'll ensure you get the best guidance so you can make the best decisions. The TK Team, moving you forward.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Hidalgo-Rains with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and I've been selling homes here in the Valley for over a quarter of a century. I want to say that experience truly matters, so when you're looking for a realtor to help you either buy or sell your biggest purchase of your life, I hope you'll consider using me. My experience doesn't matter near as much as my clients, so I do dare you to Google me, and I promise you'll see nothing but fantastic reviews, because I really do truly care to help navigate you and your family to the very best experience you'll ever have with buying a home.
Have you been thinking about buying a new house or refinancing your existing mortgage? Interest rates are still around historically low levels. Why pay a higher rate when you don't have to? Call Joe Smith, me, at Epic Mortgage LLC, 602-741-4121 for a free mortgage quote or pre-qualification. Epic Mortgage LLC is a locally owned, independent mortgage brokerage that provides low-cost options for its customers. Independently owned means low overhead, so you get the best rates, fees, and service. Keep more of your money. Brokers are better. Realtor recommended for over 20 years? Contact me, Joe Smith, at Epic Mortgage today, 602-741-4121.
Whether purchasing a home or refinancing, we know you have choices when it comes to choosing a title company. Navi Title Agency is the leading source for all title, escrow, and marketing needs. With access to the largest title insurance underwriter, Navi Title facilitates successful closings and protects clients from fraud. Creating solutions that save time and money for everyone, ask your realtor or loan officer today about using Navi Title on your next real estate transaction. Navi Title Agency is locally owned and operated in the state of Arizona.
We're back from break. Rob is ready to make his point. Rob, let's talk.
All right. So here's the thing. You're exactly right. The legal case won't be decided probably for 5-6 years. The problem is at the brokerage level now, not even NAR, not armless, at the brokerage level. So think of like you're a Home Service America.
Yeah, I work for Berkshire Hathaway, and they cover many different brokerages. So that's why they're known as Home Services of America. I think there's 55,000 of us in the country right now.
That's right. Here's the issue. When these two lawsuits have gotten this far, I don't think it's from these two lawsuits that you have to be concerned about. It's all of the copycat lawsuits. In other words, like I know the plaintiffs bar. Like I have friends who work in that industry, right? Because I went to law school. What they do is just wait and see somebody else kind of break through, do the work, and then they go, "Cool, it's time to jump on."
Yeah, because somebody else has already done all the legwork, all the real work, and then they can just keep citing that case as they're doing their arguments.
They just and they don't have to do as much work because they just look at the complaint that the very expensive, high quality Cohen Milstein lawyers, they just copy it and you file it in your wherever area, right? And the issue is going to be this lawsuit goes from 2015 to 2020, right? That five-year period. Future lawsuits are going to go from whatever 2019 to 20 whenever. So the problem is, if I'm a broker, I have to be thinking, okay, there's a really decent chance I'm going to get sued by not these big national companies.
Right.
I'm going to get sued by Joe Smith, ambulance chaser. You know what I'm saying?
It's funny. One of my lenders' name is Joe Smith. It's funny that you said that. I'll have to tease him later.
They're all, I mean, I'm in Vegas, which is like the home of, big time plaintiffs, lawyers. And I see these billboards everywhere. Right. When they start running those late night cable TV ads, did you sell a home? You may be owed compensation. Like that kind of shit. Like, we know this is coming.
We know it's coming.
We know it's coming. So whether these two big cases win or lose is almost immaterial to some extent.
Because they're just going to copy everything else. Yeah.
Standpoint. The issue is, as a brokerage, you're going to get sued. So if you're going to get sued, you might not want to continue to do this thing for the next 4 years, right? And at the end of it, maybe you lose, and then all of a sudden now you're looking at an additional 4 years of liability.
Wow.
This is the problem that brokers have to confront today.
Right.
Right. Because if you wait until, the Merle case, these cases have been decided, let's just keep doing business as usual. Cool. You've done that. You're totally fine to do that.
And they're going to keep doing that,
if they lose, the problem is if then NAR and, this all gets settled out and it turns out, yes, all of these brokers and all this NAR owes $156 billion. You're not going to get sued by all of the other copycat lawyers for everything you've done from 2023 to 2020.
Because you didn't cease when you knew this was becoming an issue.
Correct.
So really, I mean, I don't know about you, Rob, and well, I know about you, and actually this is probably a good segment to just go. I wanted to hear, okay, time out. Before we get into what you're doing now, and I do want to talk about that. Okay, Rob went to law school, but Rob also works at Realogy or carries his license at Realogy. Do you not?
No, I was at corporate.
Oh, you were at corporate. Okay, so do you carry a real estate
My
license
wife is
today?
the broker.
Okay, so Sunny does all the legal, real stuff, and you just tease her and make her not sleep at night, probably, with all this fun stuff.
More or less.
Yeah, more or less. Well, and I know that I had the opportunity to speak with Sunny a couple of times, and she's a very intelligent woman, and I know she's your better half, especially when it comes to Decentre Labs. So I do want to talk about Decentre Labs. Let me scroll over real quick just to show the screen, which is literally, if you guys want to look him up online, it's DECENTRE labs.com. And I'm assuming people just hit the contact button if they want more info. What's Decentre Labs on Medium? What do you mean by that, Rob?
So I've started a Medium blog just to start talking about what we're attempting to do.
Okay.
And you know this because, Rebecca, you are one of our launch partners in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So this, I think, is something that I've been wanting to do for a bit. And I think this is probably an interesting alternative. Now, what's interesting about what just happened with these different lawsuits is I think Decentre is going to become at least an interesting proposition for a lot of brokers and a lot of agents. So what is it? What it is fundamentally, I think the way we go forward is transparent auctions. And I think we replace the sort of cooperation compensation commission model with something that we are trying to do. Now, we're brand new. We're a new startup.
Right.
Just in Phoenix. We're just getting going, as you know.
Yeah.
We don't have like thousands of things. But the idea, I think, is fairly simple.
Well, the premise behind it, I do love, and I know I got to help you beta test a little bit on the website that's not currently live yet. But what's cool about this and sharing it today is it kind of gets people thinking about the new real estate that's coming into our universe. You know, there's a lot of things coming that are going to disrupt our industry, and it's not just what you're working on, Rob, but I do think it's a big piece of what's coming to us. So with that introduction, let's go ahead and explain how it actually works.
Sure. So basically, the idea is I think the best way for consumers to buy and sell real estate is through an open auction. So think eBay.
Yeah.
Think bring a trailer.
Totally agree with you.
And when I really thought about it, I get confronted, like I get challenged on this, a bunch of times. And my thing is, look, I have nothing against the current system per se. What I'm saying is the current system we have of the offer acceptance process where you get 11 offers as a listing agent and you have to look through all of them and then submit them to your client and talk through each one. That to me was state-of-the-art technology back in 1930 when that system was developed. Do you know what I'm saying? Like back in 1930s and the 40s, like we didn't have these things. The MLS was a printed book. That was the state of the art. That was as transparent as we could get.
And that was the only way people could get information was from a realtor.
Exactly.
And that's, I think, the biggest component that's changed today because of technology, that people have at their fingertips so much more information. And that's probably where they're coming from with this lawsuit is maybe 50, 60 years ago, we had to work a lot harder in sharing that information, but today it's on all these websites everywhere, and it's not copyrighted. So, if I post my listing, it's out there for the entire universe to use as they please and look at as they want.
That's right. But so the way I kind of saw is like the technology now exists where we can do live open auctions. It doesn't have to be this closed bid process, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's really beneficial for buyers. And it's beneficial for sellers. And I actually think it's really beneficial for the agents as well. So for buyers, it's obvious, right? I mean, think about maybe today it's a little different in Phoenix, but think about 2021. At the height of the craze.
I'll tell you what, there's still multiple offers happening. I have a couple really nice listings right now. And, what's interesting is we had a ton of activity and everybody's like, hey, is there an offer yet? Hey, is there an offer yet? Hey, is there an offer yet? And we got one for each of those listings from the weekend open houses last night and this morning, and they're super low. But what's funny about it is if it was on an open platform auction, well, that's just where the offers start, right? And then the next guy might come in above, and the next guy might come in and above. And I know the premise between... Because you and I created something called Investor Offers Phoenix years ago. It didn't take shape because here comes Open Door Offer Pad and everybody else doing what I wanted to do. But it was seriously the same premise that you have in the sense that I wanted it to be transparent. And I thought that seriously the sellers would benefit the best because in that environment, people will drive up if they can literally see what the other people are offering, which today does not happen.
Question. That's right. And I think so. I think the benefit of buyers is very straightforward, right?
Right.
I mean, the experience for a buyer today is I have my agent submit an offer, right? And then either I hear nothing, right? And it's like, sorry, you didn't get the house. Or your agent gets a call from the listing agent, hey, your best and final is due Thursday.
Right.
So you and your agent said, okay, what the hell is best and final? What does that mean? Well, we're going to do this. We're going to bid another $10,000.
And you're just guessing.
Fine, we submit that.
Right.
But you're guessing. You're guessing, and then you throw it into the wind, into the black box, and you wait. And hopefully you get the call, hey, congratulations, you got the house.
Right.
If you get the calls, you didn't get the house, very often the listing agent doesn't tell the buyer agent why.
Well, they sometimes don't even know the real reason, or they're just not allowed to disclose. The sellers may not want you to disclose. In our listing contracts today, if with their permission, we can disclose what we're looking at. But if they choose not to allow us to disclose, we can't.
That's right. And so the problem then is this now hurts both parties, right? So I'm a buyer. Let's say I go, okay, best and final. My wife loves this house. We're in love with this house. Say the list price was $500,000. You know what? $550,000. I go, you lost the house, right? And then you find out I lost by $5,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, I would have gone 560.
Yeah,
I love
if
this
you'd
house.
known, but you didn't
Had I
know.
known, right?
Now,
Had I known, number one, and number two, had I had the opportunity to do better. The current system's not set up that way. Right?
It brings me back to, and when I started in real estate, again, I hate dating myself, but I say it all the time. Next month, I hit 30 years doing this, dude. And
wow.
when I started, I worked for my dad, and we did a lot of VA repos and HUD home repos.
Sure.
And that was in an era where it was an open auction.
Yeah.
But what I liked about back then is both of those entities, being government entities, they would actually go in and inspect the properties, and you as a buyer could see the inspection ahead of time that you could make a good buying decision. Now, they didn't run it like eBay. You'd literally bring in your bid, you put it in the box, and then you wait for them to open them all up in front of you. And then you as the agent could at least tell your client, hey, well, it went for this, and this is, there were this many offers and all of that, because this was 30 years ago, before the technology that we have today. But I really appreciated that, and that was the thing that I was trying to introduce into the website I had created a few years back was, let's have an open platform, and let's not hide any of the blemishes of the house, because a lot of people are like,
you're not allowed to.
No,
it's illegal. You can't hide the blemishes of the house.
No, well, when you're selling and marketing, you might showcase some of the good things, but you're just hoping they don't notice that the bathtub hasn't worked in years, things like that. You don't necessarily point them out, but to be able to just have a sheet like this doesn't work, this is going to need to be replaced. So then you're making an educated offer. One that will most likely stick, because right now the biggest thing I'm seeing in our market is homes are canceling at the inspection because we have sellers with last year's price points in their head. So they feel like they're sacrificing selling at today's prices, right? And they don't want to fix nothing. And then we have these buyers that are looking at interest rates hitting 7, high 6s, unless they pay to bring it down. So it's like I feel like we have these two worlds that are super spread apart. And the transparency that you're wanting to deliver with your Decentre Labs, I think it'll bring them right close together. And if that means it's less work for me, I'm okay with making less money. I totally am. It's just right now I'm navigating all kinds of things for my clients, and most of the time they don't even know half the stuff I'm doing on their behalf because it's my job. I don't need to rub their nose that I was in an argument with a listing agent this morning, and all the other calls I'm making. But that's because I'm usually on an investigation hunt, trying to get them all the information I can. So if it was transparent, I do think it could be a lot easier. Our jobs could be a lot easier.
But that brings up the benefit for the seller.
Of course.
Which is, look, I think the biggest issue for a lot of sellers, exactly to your point, a lot of sellers have this idea in their head, my house is worth this. Right? And one of the most difficult conversations for a listing agent to have with their seller client is the price reduction conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Because you could pull up all the CMAs.
Their house is always the best one ever. I mean, they never want to realize that the house next door sold for $20,000 more because it was nicer. It had been taken better care of. You can allow the market to dictate the pricing based off of this transparent auction platform you've created.
Because if you go into a seller and say, hey, we need a $50,000 price reduction, first of all, you might get fired on the spot.
Oh, of course.
Because the client's like, okay, it's not because of it's because you suck, right? Second of all, the question is, okay, well, why 50,000? That seems like an awful lot.
Right.
And you have all the data. You say, look, as a professional, you have 30 years experience. You're like, look, I know this market. I'm telling you it's 50,000 reduction. And yet it's a really hard conversation. My thing with an open auction is you don't have to have that.
No.
With an open auction, you just have to set the bids. Hey, you could think your house is worth $1 million. The top high bid after 30 bids is $920,000. Guess what? This isn't Rebecca telling you. This is
the market telling you.
This is the market telling you the price of your home is $920,000.
Now, I do want to interject one thing I thought was really cool you and Sunny have on your website. And this is because I'm one of the privileged few who've gotten to see it already. So I have the teaser knowledge. I really like how you have created the opportunity for the seller to value the other terms that are not monetary.
That's right.
So, when I say that to explain to those who are listening, when you make an offer, whether it's contingent on the home to sell, whether there's financing contingency or whether you're paying cash, like these are all different terms in a transaction that matter to a seller. And depending on how much it matters to the seller, you've allowed them to create a dollar amount for said terms. So at the end of the day, that offer of $920 may really be worth $950 because it's cash, quick close, your preferred title company, like all of the things that the seller asked for were an equal offer of $920 that maybe has a home to sell using some other mortgage company, some other title company, 60-day closing, like all these other things. And maybe that one's really only worth $900 to the seller because of all those terms. Like every offer is unique. And I really, really liked that part of your site. Keep it going.
Thank you.
I really did
Thank
like
you. We're
that.
going to keep doing that. But here's where things get even better, actually, right?
Oh,
so
you added something else I don't know about?
Oh, yeah. Think about this, right? So you have two bidders. They're both $920. But one, to your point, is cash, short close, blah, blah, blah. So it's really worth $950 to the seller. The other one is $920, but it's this, FHA, whatever. So it's only worth $900. That second guy could look at that first bid and go, damn, they're at $950, right? Because of these other features. What do I need to? And then it's like, you know what? I actually can't do all cash. I can't do those things. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to bid $960.
Yeah. But if there's an appraisal guarantee, has the chance. But then you go into wanting to get an appraisal guarantee if you're going to do that. And that would be something else that the seller might have
but
value
those are the
to.
types of things that the buyer and the buyer agent could sit and strategize. Hey, I really want this house, right? Rebecca, I really want this house. What do I have to do to get this house when the top bid right now is $950 because it's $920 sale price plus $30,000 worth of whatever, and then you and I talk about it, you just go, listen, Rob, you just got to bid $975.
So Rob,
and I said, I love this house. I'm gonna bid $975. And think about that benefit for the seller.
Well,
now.
They just drove the price up. And I love your website. And so we're circling back now with this conversation. I want to circle back to the initial conversation, which is talking about those scary lawsuits.
That's right.
And I think you're going to get some resistance to agents that are not like me because I'm very open-minded. I am very forward-thinking, and I've already kind of been here, done that. So when I first learned about it, I'm like, cool, I totally get the concept. And if it avoids me from getting sued, I like it even better, right? And so do you see this adoption of your platform being perhaps a mitigating reason that would be a defense a particular brokerage might be able to have down the road if they get sued for activities happening today? Yeah.
So this is where I have to say I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. I'm certainly not anyone listening's lawyer.
Of course.
So please consult your own lawyer.
Yeah, right? of course. But I'm just throwing that out there is I could see that being a good defense. Like, hey, we get you DOJ. That's why we, started using Decentre Labs.
That's right. And the important part there is in the last lawsuit, the Murrow lawsuit, where the judge certified a class, right? Just say, hey, if you ever sold a home between 2015 and 2020 in these 20 markets, you're part of this class and can now sue all these companies. The one group that she specifically exempted and left out of class were people who bought or sold at auction.
Huh. That's interesting.
So I'm like, wait a minute.
Because the auction people aren't being harmed, and the auction people are also paying the buyer's fee, which I know is something that you're also doing in your platform.
That's right. But with an auction thing, there's none of this like cooperation compensation. All the NAR involvement is not there. So she left out anyone who bought or sold at auction out of the class. Which says to me going forward, if you're a brokerage and you don't want to get sued by copycat lawyers, you might want to start moving some of your transactions to auction. And we're the only auction platform right now that could actually do some of this stuff. So we think we're going to drive some usability there.
Yeah. I really think this episode is going to help me explain your product to our sellers and even my own agents. So I'm really happy that you joined us today. I'm happy too. I'm really sad looking at my clock because it's been zeroed out for a few minutes now, and I can hear my next guest outside of my doors. So as much as I would love to sit here and bullshit with you all day, I totally would, by the way. I know we're very like-minded, and I wish you nothing but huge success with Decentre Labs.
Thank you. And you're going to help us, Rebecca.
Well, I know I'm going to help.
You're one of our beta test pioneers.
I am. And as soon as you guys figure out how to get land on there, I'm your girl, because that was the first piece I wanted to start with on the auction platform.
Absolutely. Hey, but you know what? After this podcast, your sellers might be calling you up going, hey, Rebecca.
Yeah, they might be like, I want to do this auction thing. Yeah. And I'm not opposed to doing that. I think the thing that I initially felt, and I have a hard time with it because I'm out with first-time home buyers today, is, buyers are already scraping to get in with today's higher interest rates and all of that.
That's
so
right.
to throw my commission on to their sales price, I do struggle with. And I think that's the one thing that's going to be hard.
Okay, so this is a point I want to differ with you on, right?
Oh, is this the different? We're going to have to end it on. We're going to end it on this note where we're differing. Come on,
No,
Rob.
because I guarantee we're going to agree.
Okay.
We both know. Yes, the seller pays the commission, but the buyer's the only one bringing any money to the table, and the seller looks at the net sheet.
Yeah.
Which means the buyer is actually the person paying the commission.
So we went back and forth on this. And when I first met you, because I'm like, dude, just build it in the price. So we don't have to have that coming out of the buyer's pocket. And I know you didn't agree with me, and that's okay because this is your platform, not mine. And that's okay.
And then the only thing I'll leave with is the interesting thing is when you do an auction platform like we are, the auction premium fee can be financed, which means your buyers do not have to come out of pocket with some ginormous check at a time when they can least afford it.
You didn't tell me about that last time we talked. Is that something new?
We obviously have to have more conversations. But listen, I mean, I think most of the people listening to this are consumers. So one thing I'm curious about, I would love for them to tell you, maybe you and I could have some conversation about it. This is something I believe as someone who's just been involved in the industry, and obviously I'm biased because I have an auction site, but I'd be real curious whether buyers would want that additional level of transparency.
Oh, dude, you're not really curious. You already know the answer to that because absolutely any buyer would want that transparency. I'm negotiating a Binzer right now. If
it's coupled to the whole buyer premium, would that, I don't want that.
Well, I think for the transparency and the guidance, because, I'm working with great example, the one I keep referring to today. Home was built in 1962, and my first-time home buyers have a price budget of $800,000. It's odd to have a buyer, first-timer, looking at an $800,000 home, but in this particular location in our valley, older homes get that much money, right? And as a result, there's a lot of things that we just discovered yesterday with the inspection. I think had they known the things that we're finding now, their offer might have been different. And so I do like the transparency. I am a huge fan of that. And I do think the buyers, if they understood that it's built into their price and they could finance, my services, it's just a mind shift. And I think as the future comes our way, all of our minds will be shifting because we are having a disruption to our business. And most people aren't talking about it. They just stick their heads in the sand. I am a nerd like you and follow this kind of stuff. And, I always want to see what's coming.
Power to the nerds, yo.
Power to the nerds. Yeah. I think, cue the song in case you were wondering. And, I do really need to let you go. It was a pleasure.
Yeah,
and we're going to have another show because I gotta finish this conversation with you, Rob. And so as a teaser, if somebody wants to get on your site, who's listening to us, when do you think you'll be able to go live? Like
we're live in Phoenix right now. Go to decentrepx.com.
PX for Phoenix?
We're live in Phoenix.
Okay.
Decenter PX. Okay. And then, you can check out Decentre Labs where you explain the idea, but that's not really for, regular users. So.
Yeah.
And then find me, I'm at Rob Hahn on Twitter.
On Twitter. So. Easy to find you. Well, cool, Rob. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to talking to you again, Rebecca. My friend. Have a great day.
All right.
Take care. Peace. Oh my gosh, you guys, that was so much fun. Like, I could seriously talk to Rob for hours and hours and hours. And I totally forgot to ask him about professional card player, maybe why he lives in Vegas, and about his airplane hangar past. So obviously we're going to have him on again. And in the meantime, if you want to see what he's doing today, go to Decentre Labs PX for Phoenix.com and see about putting your own home on his platform. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. What a great show, and thank you for joining us on our mutual journey to becoming unharmable and successful in all of our experiences while we're here in this school of life. We hope you enjoyed it. If you watched us on YouTube, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Likewise, if you're catching us on one of our podcast platforms, be sure to follow us so you never miss out on another one of our shows again. Remember that if you ever have a question about real estate or any of the other topics we cover, check us out on the web, www.gratefulheart.tv, for all of our links to connect with us.
I'm on vacation every single day, cause I love my occupation. I'm on vacation every single day, every single day.